This one is gonna make the Dave Ramsey purists collective heads explode. Yeah, but you read that right. We are stopping the debt snowball. Yep, yes, we are. No, you cannot talk us out of it. This is honestly what's best for us and our financial future. And I know some of you are just going to inhale deeply and go, did she just say stopping the debt snowball is best for her financial future? Why, yes, yes, I did. So today we are going over our plan in detail so you can see why we're making the choice that we're making and how it's actually beneficial to us. Hey guys, I'm Wendy Valencia. My husband Mauricio, my 7-year-old Melina, and I have been paying off debt for 3 years. And in that time, we paid off over $200,000 and we're stopping, sort of. So today's video is going to be math heavy. So Mauricio, since I know the last time I talked about this with you, I saw your eyes rolling back in the back of your head. You need to pay attention. This is gonna have graphics and it's gonna make it a lot easier for you to understand. So as you all know, we are going to be buying my parents' house. We don't have a date. We don't really know when. We know it'll be sometime in the next few years, but we need to plan for it. And our mortgage payment is going to be less than 30% of our take-home pay. So that is a huge incentive. So why would we consider buying any house, let alone buying this particular house, when we're in the middle of paying off debt and killing it, really? So there are a few factors factoring into this, why we would do this now. And one, it's helpful for my parents. Two, it keeps us in the same school district because this school district is extremely expensive and the houses in this neighborhood are actually like the poor section of town. So, $1 million homes. Yeah. So this is really pretty much the only neighborhood and the very immediate surrounding neighborhoods that we could actually afford if we want to stay in the school district. Three, we know the history of the house. Back in the past, we had a huge problem with our house and we put $130,000 into it and lost it. And we didn't lose the house. We lost the $130,000 just trying to repair things that they had hidden from us when we purchased the house. So there was a lot of fraud involved. There was ultimately a lawsuit that we won, and it was a whole big long debacle. And it's made Mauricio and I a little gun shy about purchasing another house. And we know my parents and we know the history of this house and we trust them. So this house is actually going to be sold to us way under market value. So we will go in immediately having significant equity in the house. We've already got a positive net worth. So this will just make it that much more positive. And yeah, it's a money-making thing for us. So for all intents and purposes, we have 3 debts left. We're not going to factor in the personal loan that we have, which is around $20,000, because that's actually a loan from my parents. And when we purchase the house, we're gonna go ahead and just roll that into the amount of money that we're giving them for the house. So whatever price they quote us, we're gonna tack on the $20,000 on top of that. So that will be technically paid off and it'll still be in the house, but we'll still have a significant amount of equity in the house. And we're also not factoring in those 2 school loans that we co-signed on that we may or may not have to pay. We're not going to find out about those right now. We're not even dealing with those right now. So for all intents and purposes, we have 3 debts left. We have the car loan, we have the USAA loan, and we have Mauricio's school loan. The car loan is due to be paid off in June of 2019. And the USAA loan is due to be paid off in December of 2019. And that puts Mauricio's school loan to be paid off in September of 2020. That means if we continue on at the rate we're going, we will be debt-free by September of 2020, which is a huge incentive. But this house thing is likely going to happen before then or right immediately after then. We expect it will happen in the next 2 years. So we need to make plans for that. So let's go ahead and compare that September 2020 to what would happen if we lowered our payment down to our self-imposed minimums, which, if you don't understand what I say, self-imposed minimums, we make significantly more than the actual minimum payment, except on Mauricio's school loan. We actually just make the minimum payment on that. But those are the minimums that we agreed that we would never go below. And in all honesty, I think maybe a couple of times we have that we're all impacted by the government shutdown, but for the most part, we've kept to these minimum payments the entire time. So if we were to continue on our self-imposed minimum payments of $18.50 a month, we would be debt-free in August 2024. Yeah, that's 4 years more, but that's doable because we've committed to never taking out debt again. So this number doesn't actually really factor in any like job changes for me, or the fact that Mauricio is probably going to quit his job in a few years and go to school full time. So where is that $18.50? Well, that's $465 on our car loan, $1,200 on our USAA loan, and $185 on our school loan, which in that time period would actually go up. And we have agreed that $18.50 would be the absolute lowest we would go if we can avoid having to go lower. I mean, if we're struggling to pay our bills, obviously we'll drop it down to the very bare minimums, but we will keep that $18.50 as long as physically possible. So in order to purchase this house, we need to have a down payment 5% of the purchase price. We don't have to pay PMI because we're getting our loan through Navy Federal, and Navy Federal does not require PMI. We are looking around, but honestly, the last time we had a mortgage, it was through somebody else, and it didn't end well for us because they kept switching it around and it became a big giant headache. So we kind of like the idea of doing it through Navy Federal because they know us, we trust them, they're not going to mess with us, and I like the idea of not paying PMI. So we have to save 5% and closing costs. And 5%, why 5%? Because the 5% is the minimum amount that we can put down and get the best loan rate. And we want that loan rate because essentially it saves us like $750 a month in interest payments. So yeah, we want to be there. So we need to have that 5% at least to pay down. And then obviously we got to pay closing costs. So we're estimating around $60,000-ish for us to have saved by the time it's time to purchase the house. And then we also would like to have another $20,000 on top of that set aside for house emergencies, because this is an older house and it's going to have problems, and we'll need to be able to have the money ready to go as soon as the roof gets a giant hole in it because of a hailstorm or because the kitchen floods. And so whatever happens, we need to have that pile of money set aside for that, and we're going to prepare for that because a house is an investment and I like to protect my investments. So we are starting to save this month, and let's say we save $4,000 a month. That'll give us $32,000 by December. But if we save $5,000 a month, that'll give us $40,000 by December. And $6,000 a month would give us $48,000 by December. But a lot of it is going to depend on our other bills and how much we have to pay. Now, here are some other numbers you need to look at. And I want you to really understand these before we go into the next portion of our discussion. Our self-imposed minimum car payment is $465 a month. Times 8 months gives us $3,720. Now, as you saw before, we owe about $11,700 on our car, which would leave us with a balance of about $8,000. And the USAA loan, which has a balance of $40,800-ish, we would have paid at $1,200 a month for the next 8 months. We would have paid $9,600 off, leaving us with approximately $31,000 in balance. So keep in mind, we will have saved in cash somewhere between $32,000 and $48,000 by December. And we've told my parents that it's financially best for us if they go ahead and wait until we're debt free and have set aside enough cash to do all of this. But there are some medical issues, and waiting may not be an option. And that's okay, because their medical health is far more important to me than our desire to be debt free. While our desire is really high, I am more concerned about their health and safety than anything. And at this point, we know they're probably not going to leave before December. Too many things have to happen for them to be able to leave. And then they have to get on a wait list, and the wait list could be 6 months or a year long. We don't know. It depends on which place they pick to get on the wait list. So what we're going to do is in December, we're going to sit down, Mauricio, my parents and I, and we are going to figure out when they think they're going to leave. If it's going to be another year, then we're going to go ahead and take that big old pile of money that we saved up, and we're going to drop it on the car and drop it on the USAA loan, and hopefully it'll cover both of them. But if they're leaving, or we already know they're going to be leaving, then we're going to go ahead and keep sitting on it. But you also have to keep in mind that probably in 2 years, Mauricio is going to quit his job and be going to graduate school full time. Because right now he's working full time and he's taking classes at Nova, but that's not an option for graduate school for architecture. It is a full-time job, and it is expected that you will attend full time. And every architect that you ever talk to will tell you there ain't no way you can work your way through architecture school. There's just too much involved in it. And something major for us is that we don't want to take on any more debt if we can avoid it. I am not adverse to taking on school loan debt. I actually think it's not a horrible thing if it promises you a much better future. If you're doing it out of obligation, then no. But I'm not adverse to taking on school loan debt, because schooling is what gets you a good job that allows you to have a better income. And in Mauricio's situation, this would be definitely true. And while he's in graduate school, he's going to have no income. Well, except for that part-time job of the loans and grants that he's going to be finding. So if you want to know why exactly we are living with my parents when we make this much money, I'm going to point you to a video right over here. And I'll see you in the next one. See ya. We're out.